Welcome to the Center Mid Philosopher. This episode is brought to you by Augustus Royale Fashion. Life's not black and white, it's gray, and gray is beautiful. Check out the brand below in the link. Hey folks, welcome to this week's episode of the Center Mid Philosopher. Really exciting one this time. We're going to cover the top 10 academies in the world of soccer and football. And I should put a little asterisk on that there's certainly, this may not be like necessarily the best in terms of like wins the most competitions. This might be a little bit more like maybe my favorite top 10 academies, and or maybe some a little off the beaten path that maybe you haven't heard of before. And it just kind of touches on one of the reasons why I love doing this show is that, soccer being kind of a window into different cultures throughout the world, kind of can underscore the different values, personalities, economies, socioeconomic issues of different countries all over the world and different parts of the countries that you maybe haven't heard of. So hope you guys enjoy this one and, enjoy learning about it. And, a little bit further is just that I'm always fascinated with, like in American sports, people will say like, oh, where'd so-and-so play? Where did, Steve Smith from the Panthers this weekend was on college football and he was wearing his Utah jersey from college. And it's just kind of cool to see where people came from. And you can really kind of figure out their style of play and their identity in the global game. And, it's just a big, big world with lots of different cultures, and no better way to start than the academies. And maybe you'll learn a lot more about some of your favorite players, where they came from and how they learned to play the game. So right off the top, I mentioned this, like you could theoretically just say Real Madrid, Barcelona, PSG, Man U, and that would be correct. However, I'm going a little bit of a different order, and if you have any, if I'm missing any, or you have any disagreements, please share in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Love to get a fun dialogue going. But I'm going to give you a couple bonus ones right off the top. I'm going to start with there's a program called Right to Dream in Africa. And it is really, really cool and groundbreaking new program it was actually started in Ghana, but it focuses on football development, education, character building, scholarships, gender equality, and alumni success. And it has become a real, absolutely critical partner to a lot of clubs throughout the world. That Africa can be kind of a tough continent just from the absolute massive scope, geographically speaking. I mean, a lot of European scouts don't even really know how to attack. I mean, there's just so much to evaluate, and Right to Dream is partnered with a lot of advanced technological platforms where you can buy memberships and have access to all sorts of players all throughout Africa, and you can see their highlight reels, their stats, their personality profiles, or all sorts of things about them. But it's a win for European scouts, but it's also a win for a bunch of phenomenal African players that were almost tough to find, but this is providing them an avenue to be discovered. And a lot of some players that have come out of this are Abdul Majid Waris, who has spent some time at Spartak Moscow, Llorent, FC Porto, also represents the Ghana national team. Muhammad Kudus, he's played for Ajax. David Akam, actually from the MLS, Chicago Fire, Philly Union. Thomas Agbayong, Man City, Hibs, and Edward Sarpong, FC Nordsjælland from Denmark. There's probably dozens of others, but I think I just wanted to highlight that for the viewers and listeners. Look them up, follow them on Instagram. It's cool, and it's a really it's a feel-good one. It's getting a lot more great players in Africa visibility that they so deserve, and So it's really cool. So check those guys out. Number 11, again, this group could have been certainly top 5, if not top 2 or 3, but Santos. From the port city of Santos, 50 miles south of Sao Paulo in Brazil. Just right off the top, you may have heard of a guy named Pele, Rubinho, Neymar, Diego from Werder Bremen, Alexandro, Rodrigo, Gabriel Barbosa, otherwise known as Gabigol. They're known as the Village Boys. They known for their fluid and lightning fast attacking style of play. One word to describe them would be goals. They score a lot of goals. They proudly boast 12,000 goals in their 103-year history. And, you know, again, this is another one that's cool because you would think they would just be completely dwarfed by all the teams and academies right up the road, 50 miles up the road of Sao Paulo, and, you know, all the Flamengo, Corinthians, because the port city of Santos is 1/20th the size of Sao Paulo. Somehow Santos still remains a gold standard in Brazil for producing talent.
It seems like they just generate a world-class wonder kid like every 2 to 3 years. I mean, I think City bought one 2 years ago. I forget his name, but just player after player after player from such a small area. It's really cool.
Very cool. So, you know, again, you may be surprised. There are Santos Academy products littered throughout the world, historically and certainly to this very day. So taking a bit of an interesting one here. So, all right, number 10, Philadelphia Union. By no means am I suggesting that they're necessarily there in the top 10 academies of the world, but I just thought it would be cool for a lot of the viewers and listeners, especially American viewers and listeners, to learn a little bit more about Philadelphia Union. I would also mention that they're not the only ones. I mean, actually, FC Dallas was really viewed as the gold standard for many years in the MLS academies, producing the likes of Weston McKennie, Breck Shea, many others. And FC Dallas is by no means stopping. They're still phenomenal. Real Salt Lake is another incredible one. But Philadelphia Union is really breaking ground. And I think what's cool about them is they're kind of taking the best from all over the globe, Europe, South America, but making it American as well. And, you know, the Aronson brothers, also shout out to Michael Lahoud, our buddy from the show. He's a product of, and actually was on Instagram yesterday, he had a big night there last night at the Philly Union Stadium. But it's a bold, visionary, progressive academy. They are calling up more and more of their academy players to the senior team more than ever. I think there's probably 7 or 8 academy players on the senior team right now. They're really big on culture. They try to cultivate a culture of maturity, politeness, empathy, cross-functional learning amongst their academy players, and accountability. So, like, they are big on all the kids in the school. They spend time with the owners, learning how to run a club. They spend time with the janitors. They clean the bathrooms. They buy their groceries. They clean the school. They're told, you are fully responsible for this school. It's your school. And I mentioned the school. That's really the center of their success. They built an academy called the YSC Academy. It's for U12 to U18. They employ full-time sports scientists, sports psychologists, athletic development trainers. They've also done a really good job partnering with a lot of local and historic clubs in the area. FC Delco, if any of you guys that used to play club back in the day, I remember coming across them a couple times, and those had the likes of Ben Olsen, Jeff Lerwentowicz, Nicole Barnhart. You know, a lot of legendary Americans came from the FC Delco club, and they've really forged a partnership with them. They also give 80% of their students that attend this school are on some form of scholarship, and 50% of them are on a full ride, which is amazing. The YSC Academy was really started by Richie Graham. who created the school in his own memory and his upbringing. He was an Olympic skier, and it was kind of modeled after an academy in Vermont that put out Olympic skiers, and so it's very much of that liking. They even teach things like the do's and don'ts of social media. They have a big classroom that's modeled after the Allianz Arena of Bayern Munich, and again, they've studied what people are doing in Europe and South America, but they've made it American. They also employ a revolutionary thinker, Dr. Nuha Ahmed Lee. She is a brain cognition specialist who teaches at St. Joe's University, and the cafeteria is run by sports nutritionists. The education they teach there is built on application, synthesis, creativity, and innovation. They even study things like circadian rhythms. They have nutritionists, hydration experts, movement specialists, best-in-class online learning portals. They preach things like metacognition, which is thinking about your thinking. They also have a really famous guy named Tommy Wilson from the Rangers in Scotland that's there, and of course Jim Curtin, from the Chicago Fire, friend and former friend of the show, Logan Paul's, and viewed as one of the most forward-thinking, revolutionary coaches in the American game today. So Philadelphia Union, keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome. Next in line is Grêmio from the Porto Alegre in Brazil. So what's interesting about Grêmio is, this is a real sociological study, how different geographies create different cultures. And so Grêmio is in what they call the deep south of Brazil, and it can get really, really cold there. And Grêmio has almost had this mentality of like not only us against the world, but also us against the rest of Brazil, because it's really, geographically speaking, really, really far away from Sao Paulo and Rio and a lot of these other areas. So they've had to create a culture of innovation. And, they also are almost a little bit more South American than they are Brazilian, because they embody a lot of traits from Chile, Uruguay, Colombia, even Germany, Portugal, even China. They have a lot of different people and academy players. They really try to play a diversity of opponents, so they can innovate. So if they're playing academies from Uruguay, they're ready for more physical confrontation. If they're playing teams from Paraguay, they're used to countering a lot of aerial balls. If they're playing teams from Argentina, they're used to countering speed, transitions. Colombians attack more. So they're used to playing all sorts of different opponents. So they kind of rely on a number of different styles. Historically speaking, the history of the Rio Grande del Sul, which is where Grêmio is located, is a geography based on conflict. It's kind of based on the idea of the separation of the rest of Brazil, and it's similar to the Basques in Spain. So it's a really cool culture. They talk about how the gauchos from that region are fighting people, and they're, I think another thing upon researching Grêmio a little bit deeper was interesting is, they have nutritionists and psychologists, and they have social workers, and they all go to training. It's not like the academics just stay in the classroom. They go watch. The nutritionists go watch. So they're all saying, oh, so-and-so is maybe not playing as well. They need to be, so it's a very holistic approach. They also try to preach maintaining players' individuality from the region that they're from. They don't try to force them into one style. They say, no, maintain your individuality. They embrace different playing styles. Their culture is known of solid defense, strong defensive foundation, disciplined positioning, well-structured line. They're very position possession oriented, building up from the back. They maintain good ball circulation, teamwork, collective play, versatile midfield with creativity, defensive stability. They're big on wing play. Wingers and fullbacks are typically encouraged to go forward, provide width, deliver crosses. Big on set pieces, skilled dead ball specialists. Adaptability, we talked about that, just the geography that they're part of. They're big on adaptability, and youth development, of course. So who are some of famous Gremio Academy products? Arthur of Barcelona, Ronaldinho, Lucas Leiva from Liverpool, Anderson from Man U, Fernando Lucas Martins from Man City, Douglas Costa from Bayern Munich, Juventus, and then most recently LA Galaxy. So Gremio, that's a cool one. You may maybe learn some things about some of your famous players from there.
Talk about individualistic, keep to your roots wingers. I think Douglas Costa probably checks that box.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. He absolutely he fits that model. Like that. Now you learn a little bit more about why the way he is the way that he is. Fiercely independent, and he's a bit of a gaucho, right? I mean, he's a fighter. Okay, number 8. This is a cool one. Belgium's Anderlecht. They have a famous phrase there called "We are the street." The purple Anderlecht. So what's cool about Anderlecht is it's very Belgian and it's very Brussels. And Belgium is very much the epicenter of Europe, and it's very much an amalgamation of just tons and tons and tons of different cultures and diverse religions, cultures, languages, nationalities, and the way their culture is built there is they talk about how we mirror the community, multiculturalism. So Vincent Kompany from Man City is a very famous very famous Anderlecht alumni, academy product there. African father, Belgian mother. He used to take the tram to training, take the nocturnal bus home late at night after trainings, and he was kind of influenced by the street, as they like to say there. They are very proud of the fact that with an impressive 77% of their graduates playing professional football now, which is amazing. Some other, we talked about Vincent Kompany, Romelu Lukaku, Tori Tielemans, Batshuayi, Fellaini, Tielemans, Dries Martins, Adnan Januzaj, many famous players. They have a thing there called the Purple Talents Project, which preaches technical perfections and collegiate intelligence. They talk about some innovative thinking. They don't like to swamp their academy students and their children's minds with too much information. They work intensely for short bursts. It's a very Brussels area focused, like 80-90% of the academy is from the Brussels area. But it's really shaped the way the Belgian national team has performed. And as we all know, they're a top national team in the global stage. Again, speaking of it being very Brussels and very Belgian, it's a very ever-changing philosophy, very cognizant that their philosophy is that the philosophy is never cemented. The coaches are often tutored by psychologists and pedagogical teachers. They're very open to change frequently. They kind of like to employ lifelong learners. Children change, football changes, as they say. An example of that was they would say, we used to be 70% possession based, but what good is having the ball if you do nothing with it? So they've changed that philosophy a little bit more to 70% progressive, efficient ball possession. So they've begun focusing a little bit more on finishing than just possession.
It's cool to see just a club so successful not be set in their ways. Mm-hmm. You look at football past 5 years, just how much it's changed, and that philosophy probably is why they are so successful.
Yeah, so they've changed it from just possession to win the ball, keep the ball, progress, create, finish, win. They employ a high press or a spider web press, typically a 3-4-3 at younger ages, and then progresses into a 4-3-3 at the U15 level. They create versatile players that will develop into intelligent, well-rounded human beings. Fluid attacking style, high tempo, speed of thought, quality of execution. They expect to have confidence and craft in their attacking players. They build attacks through triangular passing, adaptability, hard work trumps talent, are some famous mottos on their walls there. Craft, guile, intelligence. They like to think that they're creating strong leaders with strong character. And they like to say, the academy doesn't just prepare youngsters for football, it prepares them for life. So that's a cool, maybe you learn something about Anderlecht. All right, moving on to number 7, one of my favorites, River Plate, from Buenos Aires, Los Millonarios. Explosive attacking style, as no one would be surprised to hear. So just right off the top, who are some famous River Plate players? Well, the list could go on and on and on. Alfredo Di Stefano, some say the best of all time, back with the Real Madrid days. Pablo Aimar, one of my favorites. Hernan Crespo, Ariel Ortega, Javier Saviola, Andres D'Alessandro, Enzo Francescoli, who, sidebar, is widely known as Zidane's all-time favorite player. He actually named one of his sons after him. Gabriel Batistuta, Batigol, as they called him. Marcelo Gallardo. Julian Alvarez, who's just crushing it for Man City right now. Javier Mascherano. They call the academy La Escuela de Football River Plate. They preach skill, intelligence, tactical tenacity. I think one of the things that's wild about River Plate is how young they start. It starts at U7. So, they are really grooming them from pretty much as soon as they can walk.
The atmosphere at their games too. So obviously one of the best atmospheres is the senior team, but even their even their youth leagues will have ultras and flares in the imagine being 12 years old and there's 500 people with flares in the stands. It's really cool how they kind of keep that keep that what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of keep that energy throughout all of their teams.
Oh yeah, they're big on age-specific activities. So they play a lot of 2v2, 3v3, 4v4, 5v5, especially at the U7 through U9 levels. So again, interesting. My son, I was at 4 soccer games this weekend for my son. Is playing academy soccer in Greensboro for NC Fusion, and they play 5v5, but they don't do a lot of 2v2 or 3v3. Maybe they should. In fact, they should, because even 5v5 can seem, it could feel like you can hide. The River Plate, there's nowhere to hide. You got to get in there and create, and you got to get in there and defend. Which again is further emphasized. One of their philosophies is the players need constant contact with the ball in condensed spaces, which again is very Argentinian. They're known for their skill, and they're centered on compact defense. Players learn to operate in packs to win back the possession. The academy stresses quick interplay and stretching the opposition. They blend a football that combines defensive cohesion with explosive offensive moments. The academy team regularly tours Argentina, but also Bolivia, Brazil, Mexico, and of course the U.S. and Europe, and they often crush their opponents, often ruthlessly. They were most recently seen beating the L.A. Galaxy's academy 7-0 in the Dallas Cup. They have they're a big one, and they're very, very, very much responsible for many, many, many Argentinian. I mean, we just named a couple World Cup winners right there, so you can thank River Plate for a lot of that.
Quite the list of names for sure.
Yeah. All right, so number 6, a famous and a favorite, West Ham, East London, baby, where it all began. So I'm going to name some famous ones. You probably all know a lot of these, but Frank Lampard, Joe Cole, Rio Ferdinand, Jermaine Defoe, Michael Carrick, Glenn Johnson, Bobby Moore, Kieran Richardson, Declan Rice, Mark Noble. It's a very, very, very historic, and England created the game. They brought the game to the world. They were many, many, many of the players on the 1966 England World Cup winning team were from West Ham. They're big on their East London roots. They focus quite a bit on local talent, and even though this is an example of even though a lot of other clubs have come to be equal to that of West Ham, it still is viewed in England as kind of the OG academy. And still, I think if you hear announcers talk about, they came from the West Ham Academy, it's kind of like Oak Hill and American basketball or something like that, so it's a real gold standard and a historic one that, so maybe if you didn't know that, watch West Ham with a little bit more respect for the tiny bubbles, as they say. So here's a personal favorite of mine, number 5. I had a lot of fun researching this one. Dinamo Zagreb, Croatia, also known as the Hitrek Kasian. So I've grown to become slightly obsessed with Croatian soccer because they are just so good and always are. And oftentimes, if there's some new player, I'm like, man, who is that guy? That guy's really good. I mean, 2 out of 3 times they're Croatian, And I think what's even cooler is I don't know what they're eating there or what they're doing, but it seems like 7 out of every 8 people there is just an incredible soccer player because the entire population is only 4 million people. I mean, that's the size of Charlotte, And Zagreb only has a population of 800,000. That's half the size of Raleigh, And their annual budget is only 1 million compared to that of Barcelona and Real Madrid, of that in the 20, 30, 50 million range. I think a cool story to exemplify how cool Dinamo Zagreb and how much respect they're getting on the world stage here lately is the story of Dani Olmo. Famously left the Barcelona academy for Dinamo Zagreb in 2014. Robbie Burton, a Welsh midfielder, just left Arsenal's academy to go to Dinamo Zagreb. And Dani Olmo, that paid off. I mean, he's killing it. A lot of it, we talked about him on the last episode.
I was going to say he's came up a couple episodes, I think. Definitely up and coming.
Yeah, so you may not have known that about him, that he left Barcelona academy to go to Dinamo Zagreb. Dinamo Zagreb has a storied playing history, firstly in the Yugoslav First League, and then established in the top flight in 1992, the Croatian League. They have won the Croatian Football League 20 times, the Croatian Cup 15 times, and in 2011 they were voted alongside Barcelona, Inter Milan, Sporting Lisbon, Ajax, Arsenal as in the top 6 best youth academies in the world. Romeo Jozak is the leader of the academy. He wrote the country's coaching manual, identifying over 100 desirable technical traits for young players aged between 8 and 12. That's meticulous. And he likes to claim that it's not the drills, it's the coaches. So he's big on the coaches. When he took over the Dinamo Zagreb Academy, there were 35 coaches. He fired 30 of them and brought in 30 new ones. and they look for talent, speed, aggression, tolerance to pressure, quickness. He likes the coaches and players to be smart. They should be loyal to the game. They should be honest. They should be passionate, not money driven. It's interesting. He doesn't like dealing with the agents. And, you know, youth academy players can actually play for their senior teams there. That's one of the reasons why a lot of players like to go over there, because as he mentions, you know, making it from the academy to the senior team from the likes of Real Madrid, Man U, AC Milan, even Arsenal, it can be really difficult. Whereas they like to every year they like to promote 2 academy players to the senior team.
Well, they're always in European competitions too, you know, Champions League, Europa, whatever it is. So as a youngster picking an academy to go to, if, you know, you have to promote 2 of us every year and they're constantly in European competition, I mean, that's got to be just a cherry on top added bonus for that academy.
Absolutely. So who are some famous Dynamo Zagreb alumni? Luka Modric, Ivan Rakitic, Mateo Kovacic, Andrej Kramaric, Joseph Brekalo, Mario Mandzukic, Vendran Korluka, Man City, Tottenham, Boban, Prosinecki, Jenner Lovren from Southampton, Liverpool, Lyon, Niko Kronkar, Alan Hilalovic, Marcelo Brozovic. I mean, that's an unbelievable list.
So many good midfielders. I mean, other players too, but gosh.
So, like, the other thing about Zagreb is they're a selling club, and they know it, and they embrace it, and they like to train their kids to develop healthy lifestyle habits. They train them to be good people. They have responsibility in their school obligations. And what kind of style of play do they like to do is, so they're not position specific. They never limit the amount of touches players can have at a young age, which interestingly, upon researching this, again, I watch a lot of American youth academy teams play, and I'm watching some Americans, like, these are, by the way, 7 to 8 year olds, mind you. The team that we played against, they were doing 2-touch possession before the game. By the way, the fact that they were doing 2-touch possession as 8-year-olds is pretty impressive. But under the Dynamo Zagreb model, they would say, no, never do that. Never limit creativity and touches on the ball at that young age. Who's to say who's right? Well, I'd say Dynamo Zagreb is better than we are. So anyway, maybe we can learn a thing or two. The other thing, upon researching them a little bit deeper, and this is something juxtaposed against the American game, they're big on spatial awareness, and they're big on dealing with pressure, like getting the ball with a player on your back. They really coach knowing where your teammates are on the ball, around on the field, off the ball movement, and big emphasis on ball runs. That is something that I would say is probably the most lacking in the American game. I feel like you don't really start learning that stuff until you're 15, 16, 17 in America, and you just start learning it organically because you have to. But they really make a point of teaching that from a very, very young age. And that's something, when I do watch academy teams play in America now, there's not a lot of off-the-ball runs. It's all just kind of get out there and figure it out. And there's something to that too, but I think it would behoove us to teach off-the-ball movement a little bit more. They're huge on technique, striking the ball. Like, there was a journalist that went and spent a week at the academy. He was blown away by how much time they'd spend 2 hours doing nothing but striking the ball out of the air, like working on a volley, teaching them exactly where to strike it on their foot. And again, that's another thing in the American game. I don't see a lot of that. It's you either can do it or you don't. They don't stop and teach you. No. You stand this way, position yourself this way, momentum, use this part of your foot. That's something they do at Dynamo Zagreb. Just some cool things there. Between 2008 2013, the club enjoyed what they call their golden generation, raising over 50 million euros from the sales of the club. And a lot of that went right back into the academy just to continue to help grow and farm out talent all across Europe. All right, number 4, Borussia Dortmund. So Dortmund's an interesting one because, we talked about River Plate and Dynamo Zagreb and some of these clubs that it's all about starting super, super, super young. And of course, Dortmund is too. But I would say what Dortmund to me has become known as, it's almost like a prep school or something where they're attracting the best from all over the world at age 16, 17. And then they go there and it takes them from these like really high potential players into megastars. I mean,
yeah, Dortmund to me is when I think of the club that has embraced youth and then had international success, that's the first one that comes to my head, just from a very broad perspective.
Yeah, I mean, Jude Bellingham. I mean, he's the best player in the world right now. Christian Pulisic, Gio Reyna's there. We've all talked about he's not playing much, but he's had a great years there. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. And they have an interesting culture. It's like I really took a deep dive on them, and a journalist went there, and they were talking about walking the halls there. Not a single player or coach passed one another without them greeting each other. It's just very network heavy. It's very like we're all a family here, they're big on speed of action. That's certainly German, of course. They have a thing called the Footballnacht, and each player must go into the Footballnacht once a week, and it's an extra 5,000 touches per week. So they want that by their estimates, over a 4-year span, their academy players will touch the ball 20,000 more times than their competitors in their training sessions. So that's a very German way of doing it. Some of their famous academy players: Mario Götze, Mats Hummels, Marco Reus, Sven Bender, Marcel Schmelzer, Nuri Sahin, Gundogan crushing it right now. He just had a big goal yesterday in El Clasico. Neven Subotic. And the other thing about Dortmund is it's like not just an academy for players, it's kind of an academy for coaches. Jurgen Klopp, Omar Hitzfeld, Thomas Tuchel, Lucien Favre, Matthias Sammer, Jurgen Rober. So it's kind of like, we all know it. You can go and compete for the Bundesliga and in the Champions League, but it's also a real springboard into, I feel like it's like it's like the cafeteria. People just go and pick their favorite dish for the likes of, all the EPL teams, Real Madrid, that's like the hotbed of talent, so they get a lot of the best and brightest from all over the world from these great academies, and it's sort of like the early college, if you will.
I think they're unique that, at least that come to my head, the only team that has embraced youth and can still maintain success at the very, very highest level, top 3 Bundesliga, or, they should be anyway. And then just like year after year, European success. And yeah, to me, when I think about it, it's the only team on the list so far that has still maintained high levels of success, with embracing all the youth players that they produce.
Yeah, they've got something really unique going on, and I'm sure there's no sign of that stopping. So number 30, a favorite, Boca Juniors, famous alumni, Diego Maradona, Carlos Tevez, Juan Roman Riquelme, Gago, Ever Banega, Nicolas Burdisso. It's a real Italian flavor, as we know. The Boca neighborhoods of Buenos Aires is a lot of Italian immigrants from back in the early mid-1900s, they've actually expanded it's a global brand. They have academies in Miami, Long Island, Austin, Chicago, and St. Louis are rumored to have some Boca Juniors academies. It's major discipline, intensity, and passion, of course. Strong defensive foundation, attacking flair, physicality, big on set pieces. An extremely passionate fan base, probably maybe the most passionate fan base in the world, possibly. And I've been there, by the way. That was a bucket list for me. I've been to the Chocolate Box, and I've never seen anything like it. The stadium was quite literally pulsing from outside, and it was bananas. The Geniches, as they're known, big on tradition, youth development, obviously, so that's you can't do this list without mentioning Boca. Number two, again, we talked about doing some off the beaten path one. This one is very much not off the beaten path, but how can you not mention Barcelona? La Masia, Lamine Yamal, Gavi, Marc Guiu, playing right now. Literally in the past week, there's been they've had a lot of injuries. So they've had, probably like half their team are academy products. But it's almost not even worth going through the famous players there, but we shall. Leo Messi moved over there at the age of, I believe, 11.
I've heard of him.
I've heard of him. Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, Gerard Piqué, Puyol, Pedro, Sergio Roberto, Cesc Fabregas, Ansu Fati, Pep Guardiola, Mikel Arteta, Luis Garcia. You have to mention Barcelona because of the tiki-taka style. That's probably been the most influential style of play in the modern era. Hell, the EPL has become tiki-taka-fied, which used to be, back in the 90s, EPL was thought that of the long ball, super physical speed, and the speed and physicality are still there, but the EPL has become a lot more possession-based, and that is all due to the global influence of Barcelona and the tiki-taka style. What is the tiki-taka style? It's kind of an onomatopoeia. It's like a tiki-taka, the short passes all over the field, high ball retention, movement off the ball, constant triangular passing, pressing in high defensive line, positional play, quick transitions, and of course the total football philosophy, spearheaded by that of Johan Cruyff. A lot of Barcelona's style goes back to him from when he was there and when he coached. The likes of Frank Rijkaard and Stoichkov and that era. The Barcelona is kind of a hybrid of a Dutch, European, Spanish, Catalan style of play. It's not even Spanish. It's kind of its own thing, and Johan Cruyff was definitely the foundation there, and carrying his torch is very much that of Pep Guardiola, and Man City is kind of an extension of Barcelona, really. All right, so that's everyone knows about Barcelona, but I would be remiss if I did not mention them. So number one academy in the world, and their troubled times are these, but that of Ajax. You have to mention Ajax. And they have to be one because, frankly, they were kind of the first academy in the world. They kind of created this whole thing. Maybe not necessarily, they weren't necessarily the first to do it, but they were the first to be the best at it and to have a real culture and identity. I remember I used to play for Elmar Bolowich, who was the head coach of Carolina. We've had many former Elmar players, myself, Eddie Robinson, Logan Paul, Grant Porter, countless others, Buddy Ford, list goes on and on and on, Matt Crawford. but he used to have us watch Ajax videos, actually. The youth academy, known as the Toekomst, the future is what that's known as. It's one of the most renowned and successful and famous and historic academies in the world. Johan Cruyff, Marco van Basten, Dennis Bergkamp, Frank Yarkard, Clarence Seedorf, Edwin van der Sar, Wesley Schneider, Raphael van der Vaart, Patrick Kluivert, Johan Neeskens, Ryan Gravenberch. There's hundreds of others, but the style of play is that of the total football style of play. The Dutch side pioneered in the late 1960s. It emphasizes quick passing and even quicker offensive transitions. Very Dutch style of play. It indulges on a constant desire to constantly improve, and you know. I would even argue, if you're going to connect the dots, so, you know, Man City's influenced by Barcelona, Barcelona's influenced by Ajax. And, you know, that style of play, you know, Cruyff was a real visionary, the way he played and then the way he coached. God rest his soul. And so anyway, folks, this has been top 10, actually top 12. Best academies in the world. And, you know, again, I would like to go back and give a shout out to all the ones that I omitted, which are just countless of them that I didn't touch on. I mean, you know, Juventus, AC Milan, Manchester United, you know, PSV, Chivas, Tigres, Club America, you know, Corinthians, Flamengo. I touched on FC Dallas and Salt Lake City FC, but you know, I left out so many that you would think of. I mean, certainly Real Madrid, and
I argue City probably has a top 10 academy.
Oh yeah,
currently.
Benfica, Schalke, Vélez Sarsfield out of Argentina, Peñarol out of Montevideo in Uruguay, Atletico Bilbao, Sporting Lisbon. I'm probably missing dozens, but if I missed any, mention them in the comments. And also, if you enjoy the show, please like, comment, share. Check out our shop. There'll be some Center Mid Philosopher shirts. We're also going to have some Mashy P Mob, Bundesliga Berserkers, the Cult of Catenaccio tees in there. So if you're looking for some cool, comfortable retro tees, also check out the sponsor of the show, Augustus Royale Fashion, retro tees, kind of hipster women's attire. It's got it all. And thank you for watching. I hope you learned something.
Awesome stuff, man. Learned a lot today.
Thanks.